Hey YouTubers, it's your old buddy Platt. Today I'm going to show you how to make a simple corn mash. So let's go. In the past few years, there's been a real boom in the distilling business. Kind of like the microbrew business was a few years ago. Now the micro distill industry has flooded the U.S. There's distilleries all over the place. And it wasn't that long ago when most distilleries in America were based in or around Kentucky. Also, shows like the TV show Moonshiners have brought a interest into the art of distilling. If you've been on YouTube much, you've probably seen a ton of videos showing how to make corn whiskey, moonshine, and other things. You've also probably seen a lot of sites out there selling stills and different things. Well, the art of making any kind of distilled product, rum, vodka, gin, scotch, tequila, what have you, is a two-part process. Obviously, the distilling part is the one everybody notices, but before you get there, you have to create a fermented product, i.e. something like a beer or a wine or what have you. And that's kind of what I want to show you today. But before we get started, we have to do a quick disclaimer. Before we start, I have to put out this disclaimer. Like I said, you've probably seen on YouTube a ton of videos of people making moonshine. You probably, if you're an avid home brewer, you've probably seen a lot of sites, people selling pot stills. And you probably even know somebody that cooks up a little corn whiskey or what have you at their home. Well, the reality is it is illegal. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, I get to make beer, wine, mead, what have you at home. And that is legal. But for whatever reason, the government says that once you take whatever your beer, wine, and put it in a still and start to distill it, then it becomes illegal. If you want to distill, you gotta have to get a license. Now again, you may say, well, why do they sell the stills? Well, it's kind of like the water pipes they sell at smoke shops. If you put tobacco in it, it's fine. The minute you put marijuana in it, that's when it becomes illegal. And that's the way with the stills. If you want to distill water or essential oils with those stills, that's fine. But once you put alcohol, i.e. beer, wine, what have you in there, then it becomes illegal. Now what we're doing today is the first part, the fermentable part. We're basically making a corn beer or corn wine, whatever you want to say. That's legal. Now what I'm going to do with it after I cook this up is I'll probably just throw a crap load of Kool-Aid in there and make a real big batch of crunk drunk Kool-Aid. But just to let you know that distilling alcohol is illegal. And that's the disclaimer. Let's get to making some corn mash. Well, now that we got through that disclaimer, let me tell you what we need to make our corn mash. First, we need 5 pounds of cornmeal. If we were doing a little fancier version of this, we might do flake corn, but cornmeal is the easiest way to do this. Then we're going to need 5 pounds of sugar, any kind of cane sugar is fine. And then finally, bread yeast. Now for the home brewers out there might be thinking, well, why not Yale yeast or whatever? This is what the old moonshiners use. One thing about bread yeast is it's less temperature sensitive. So you don't have to worry about throwing it, in a fermentation cooler or what have you. This yeast works at a pretty wide temperature range, so it makes it easier on us. So now we got our supplies together, let's make some corn mash. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to heat up 2 gallons of water. Now we don't want to bring it to a boil, even though if you did it wouldn't be that big a deal. But we're going to shoot for roughly around 170 degrees or so. While this is getting ready, take your time and clean out your fermenter. Be sure to sanitize. If you have any questions on homebrewing sanitation, feel free to check out my video on homebrewing sanitation. So we're going to let this heat up, and then we'll come back with our sanitized fermenter, and we're going to add the ingredients. So we've got our water heated up, and we'll take off the heat, and we're going to dump it into our sanitized fermentation bucket. Give me a couple of napkins here. There we go. And our next step is we're going to dump our 5-pound bag of sugar. into our hot water. Part of the reason we heated up the water was it's going to make it easier for all this sugar to be thoroughly dissolved into our mixture. We want to give it a thorough stir. Now, if you're looking into your fermenter, you see this because of the temperature of the water, it blends in nicely. Once we get all that sugar stirred in, now we're going to stir in our 5 pounds of cornmeal. Now this cornmeal is not going to dissolve like the sugar does, but the temperature of the water is going to help break down the sugars inside the cornmeal, and so we extract that out later for our yeast to get it to. Now you want to be sure to stir this thoroughly because you may get some clumps in your cornmeal. Alright. While I stir this in, we will come back to add our cold water. Finally, we're going to fill up our fermenter up to 6 gallons. Now we're making a 5-gallon batch, but you'll find the cornmeal will soak up about 1 gallon of water. So we're going to fill it up to about 6 gallons of my fermenter with cold water. Now, that's going to get the temperature down roughly below 100 or so. If you read the package on the bread yeast, it'll say that dissolve in water of 100 to 110. So this yeast, we won't have to chill the wort or beer or whatever we want to call this down to 70 or 60 like you would with beer. You just want to throw a little cold water in there between that and the cornmeal taking a little heat out of the water we heated. It'll get it down to the right temperature to add our yeast. And you just want to add 1 packet of whatever bread yeast you get at the store. And we'll just sprinkle her in. And we'll give her a quick stir, kind of let all that yeast stir in. Well, I'm going to place the lid on, put in my airlock, and I'm going to put this in a cool spot or whatever. Remember, this yeast is not sensitive, so you don't have to find a cold closet or anything like that. Just someplace out of direct heat or what have you. And we'll come back and wrap up this video. Well, to wrap up, we created a 5-gallon batch of a very simple corn mash. This recipe would probably have been something similar to what they did in the old Prohibition days. Now, if we were going to produce a distilled product, we would leave that in the fermenter for about 7 days or so, and then the moonshiners would throw that in the still. Some modern day moonshiners have the advantage of using something called turbo yeast, which just completes the fermentation process in about half the time. A lot of your big distilleries use something like this, because time is money for them, so their fermentation process is usually shorter, less than a week. For our purposes, we're going to let this ferment out in 7 to 10 days, and when the airlock starts bubbling, then we could go ahead and, for our purposes, add the Kool-Aid and make a bunch of crunk drunk Kool-Aid. I do want to add a little addendum to the disclaimer earlier. When I was talking about the legality of distilling, I was generally referring to here in the United States. Now, my videos have been seen in 96 different countries, and one of them is New Zealand, which allows for home distillation. And there are a couple other countries that kind of tweak the legality of home distillation. So this video is kind of shared to the world. So if you're in a jurisdiction that allows distilling, this recipe might help you out as far as making a simple, easy corn mash. And for those of you where distilling's illegal, if you want to, you could probably boil this down and turn it into some kind of corn beer, add, your favorite hops, or what have you. In the future, I might do a video where I take flake corn and turn into a mash, or we might take the grain bill of your favorite whiskey, let's say a Jim Beam or a Maker's Mark, and we might see if we can turn that into a beer. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below, and always feel free to share or like these videos. Also, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, feel free to leave them in the comments section, or you can contact me through the Twitter page. Well, until next time, bottoms up.